Situate Planning Board, welcome all of you this evening. I'll accept a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yep.
All right, we have a public hearing.
Should we vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Stormwater permit for 27 Hood Road. Karen?
An immediate continuance has been requested for this application. After the first round of peer review, they realized that they did not have any test pits to supplement, to determine if the stormwater system would work. In doing the test pits, it was determined that there's possibly more wetland in the area, and so a wetland scientist is going out there next week to determine if there is more wetland, and if there is, then and it's in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, then an application will be filed with the Conservation Commission. So they put in a request for continuance.
Thank you.
It'll be on April 11th.
April 11th. Go for it.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the stormwater permit for 27 Hood Road until April 11, 2019 at 8:15 p.m. in the Selectmen's Hearing Room in Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, and continue the time for filing a decision with the town clerk until April 26, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we have a Form A for 227 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Good evening. For the record, my name's Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering, representing the property owner Country House Realty Trust for a Form A application at 227 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. A previous version of this plan was submitted at the last planning board meeting and was subsequently withdrawn. We have made plan changes and resubmitted. The proposal in front of you is to take the property at 227 CJC Highway and divide it into 2 lots. The property is located within the R1 zoning district as well as the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. Lot 1, depicted on the plan, consists of 63,613 square feet, has frontage on both Chief Justice Cushing Highway, a public street, as well as Judge Cushing Way, which is a private road. Lot 2 would be the remainder of the property, consisting of the Hook and Harvest, or PJ's restaurant. Lot 2 consists of a total of 254,981 square feet, having in excess of 1,014 and 29 feet of frontage on Route 3A. Lot 2 would retain its 2 existing curb cuts. Since the last meeting, we've gone out, we've located additional pavement along the private way, Judge Cushing Way. We've provided detailed documenting that that way is suitable for access and endorsement on an A&R plan. Specifically, Judge Cushing Way has 18 feet of pavement. It consists of slopes that are relatively gentle, ranging 0 to 5% along the entirety of the frontage on Lot 1, and there are utilities available for connection, most notably water service with a hydrant directly in front of the frontage of Lot 1. We've received email correspondence from the fire chief that accessibility on Judge Cushing Way is not a concern of the fire department. That was forwarded to your department earlier today. Lot 2 would take its frontage off of 3A, or Chief Justice Cushing Way, again, a state-maintained highway layout. Both lots comply with frontage requirements and area requirements as required by the zoning bylaw.
All right, questions from the board?
I'd like to, you have any, Karen, have any input?
Karen?
At this point, the plan can be endorsed with the notation that the planning board endorsement is not a conformance with zoning regulations. The wetlands still have not been approved by the Conservation Commission, but I would recommend endorsement.
All we need is the square footage, access, and
Access and frontage.
There's 3 things, and you've met all 3 of them. Patty?
I move to endorse as approval not required a plan of land in the town of Situate, Massachusetts, 227 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, the applicant owner Country House Realty Trust, Jeffrey P. O'Brien, trustee, dated 3/15/19, as the division of land shown on the accompanying plan is not a subdivision because it shows every lot of the plan has frontage of at least a distance presently required under the Situate zoning bylaw on the public way of Chief Justice Cushing Highway and private way of Judge Cushing Road, with the planning board stamp added that planning board endorsement of the plan is not a determination as to the conformance with regulations.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the mixed-use special permit for 6 McDonald Terrace.
Yes, in the bottom here.
All right, who is making the presentation?
Sure. On behalf of Bob Berwick,
Please.
On behalf of Bob Berwick, the property owner and applicant, we believe we've submitted the materials required for endorsement of the Mylar plans so that the special permit can be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. We're seeking endorsement.
Karen?
Yeah, all the changes that the board wanted were added to the Mylars, and we verified that they were added to the Mylars, so they can be endorsed.
All right. Questions from the board? Patty?
I don't have anything to say at this time. You want me to read this?
Yeah, please, read that.
I move to endorse the mixed use in the Village Business Overlay District special permit plans for 6 McDonald Terrace, prepared by Morse Engineering Company, Inc., revised, dated 3/2019 for RJB Development, sheets 1 through 4, as all of the conditions necessary for endorsements have been met.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can pick them up before 9:30 tomorrow morning.
All right, next on the agenda is sign Blanchard Farms Street Acceptance Plan. Karen?
Right, so there is a Mylar that goes along with a street acceptance petition. It's the layout of this, it's the actual layout plan. So last time, the planning board voted to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that this, that the street be laid out, subject to documentation being provided that there is full compliance with the operation and maintenance plan prior to town meeting. This is yet to be submitted, but I know I've received an email from the Homeowners Association that Mr. Morris has been hired to do this inspection, and it will be done before town meeting. So it's just, if you want to sign the plans tonight, the Mylar tonight, you can sign it. If you choose not to, you can wait till the night of town meeting.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Let's sign them.
What's that?
We can always hold it.
Yep.
I would prefer we hold it until we get this report. I mean, I'm okay with signing it, but I would want to see that we've got the report before town meeting.
Yes, I will. As soon as we get the report, you will get a copy. We can always lock the Mylar up like we do other plans if the condition is not met.
Okay. We are zooming right through this agenda.
Okay.
All right, we have a public hearing at 7:30, so we have to wait the 20 minutes because it was, in fact, posted for 7:30 for 568 First Parish Road. So we'll move on to, yes?
Could I move back
Yep.
just as a question more than anything else on Blanchard Farm? On
Yeah.
Blanchard Farm? Does the conveyance also convey the stormwater system? Or is it only
Only in the
conveying the
street.
road?
Only in the street. It only is the catch
So the
basins
stormwater
in the
components
street.
that are in the street
Right, just the
are
catch.
town responsibility?
Right, catch basins.
Okay.
But the rest of it has to be maintained by the...
Still a homeowners association?
Homeowners
Okay.
association.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.
All right, so we will do, you have no minutes. How about accounting?
We have a lot of that, okay. I move to approve the requisition of $9,555.10 to Horsley Witten for peer review of Seaside and Situate, for $6.57 to WB Mason for office supplies, for $225 to Merrill Corporation for peer review of 35 Greenwald, for $1,350 to Merrill Corporation for peer review of 27 Hood Road stormwater, for $69.85 to Karen Joseph for mileage reimbursement.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we've done that. Liaison reports. I went to the zoning board of appeals, and it was more than interesting. At the house on 52 Otis, has been continued. It will be the biggest house on the smallest lot. So, but it was felt by some of the members of the zoning board that that was okay.
It's a section 6 finding that they're
Yes,
looking?
section 6. And there were 2 others that were very similar. I saw which way the wind was blowing, so I took myself out of there. It's just, one of them, I think, would approve building in a puddle, so, section 6 findings. Biggest house, smallest lot. And they felt that it was not, they were not increasing the nonconformity. I didn't quite catch all of that, but...
And not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Right, even though it's the biggest house on the smallest lot. And then, there's a meeting Wednesday night on the fields to talk about the fields. And there's been quite a bit of discussion about the AstroTurf and what have you, so anyone's interest, do you know where the meeting's being held?
Yes, if I think, I'm going to say the police,
Okay, up at the public safety?
hold on, I have it in my calendar.
Okay.
Hold on.
While she looks for that, I went to the selectmen's meeting, and Ralph Constantine was there about Jamie's, and so they're trying to put together some type of a contract as far as his being able to pump his tight tanks and only pay, I think it's 1 or 2 cents a gallon, which is what other restaurants pay, but they're on town sewer, and he's the only restaurant in the town of Scituate that is not on town sewer. And there was a fear that maybe this would set a precedent, but we shall see. He'll be back in. I'm not sure if it will be this coming Tuesday night or not, to see about if they can come to some type of an agreement in terms of his disposing of his tight tank waste.
So are they suggesting the town pick up the difference?
No, it's not a question of the town picking up the difference. It's a question of just giving him the ability for, I think the contract would run for 3 years with an option to renew, to enable him to reopen.
At a reduced rate.
At a reduced rate.
For what he pays for pumping.
But who's giving them the reduced rate?
The selectmen who are the sewer
So
commissioners.
the town would be subsidizing it?
Subsidizing it.
Yes, they would be.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
That's what I was asking.
yep, okay.
And the meeting is at the library.
Thank you. The meeting for Fields is at
It's at the library.
library.
6:30.
Right, so, anybody else have anything on liaison reports?
I didn't hear any feedback from the water department on the RFP.
I asked, and it wasn't ready for prime time yet. They had to retype it all in, and it wasn't ready last time I asked. I will ask again tomorrow.
But once they finish that, they're going to send it out?
They were going to send it so that we could, you wanted a copy to review before it went out, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see it,
Yeah,
but
so
I mean, I gave them all of our comments
I've
already.
requested it. I will check tomorrow.
I don't want to hold it up, but I just wanted to make sure that it was, that it was going to go out soon. There's a citizens petition warrant
Yes.
at town meeting that's sort of addressing that issue, and it would be good to keep the momentum going on the study.
Okay. Planning and development report?
Yeah, we remain very, very busy. We got 2 accessory dwellings and 3 preliminary plans, and are expected to get another preliminary plan. Toll Brothers, we've been having a meeting of the minds, shall we say, on that project.
What exactly does that mean?
We've just been having some disagreements on some concrete crushing and noise on trucks, et cetera.
The crushing was supposed to be off-site.
That's correct.
Were they doing it on-site?
They were breaking it up into pieces about this big, which could be construed as concrete crushing. So we had a meeting with them, and hopefully they have understood where we stand. They will be submitting some changes to the front entry design and the pool, the clubhouse, which we saw yesterday, and they appear to be relatively insignificant. The good news is they're getting rid of the lighthouses. So that's a positive.
Didn't we say that?
Positive thing. They'll be coming into the board sometime, probably in the May 9th meeting, to talk about moving into Phase 2.
Things are moving a lot, they claim, a lot more quickly than they had anticipated.
But they're going to give us some materials prior to them, and we're going to meet with them after we get the materials to see if everything makes sense before we actually put them on the agenda.
And they're completely done with the hazardous material remediation?
The remediation is done, yes. They haven't submitted the final report yet, but they're working on that. But all the material is off the site.
Can I ask why the most Irish town in America has a bocce court?
What's that?
The most Irish town in America has a bocce court down there.
We've also got pickleball.
I don't know what that is.
So, the Design Review Committee is meeting on Tuesday night, and we'll have Drew Company coming in again. They made some changes to the, to some of the views with gables and putting, articulation, and so that's Tuesday night at the EOC. Moderators meeting will be Wednesday. 50 Country Way is hoping for occupancy of Building A pretty soon. They haven't paid the sewer fee. Still there's landscaping that needs to be done. The island has to be done with Grasscrete. We don't have any as-builts, so it may be very optimistic on their part. But I can't get the 4 units on the subsidized housing inventory until they're A, occupied, and they have total occupancy permits, not temporary occupancy permits.
By not having paid the sewer fee, does it mean they're not presently connected to the sewer?
They're not connected to the sewer. They've done the...
Unless the first building must be.
Yes, but they just recently completed the off-site piece. So they needed Building A to have the off-site improvement prior to that one being...
Just that building to connect.
For that building. The other
Okay.
2 are connected, but there's a fee every time you connect, and the fee hasn't been paid. But the off-site pipe increase has been completed. So it's setting up, nicely that it will all be completed soon.
But the fee for B that's paid.
The fee for B and fee
And
for
for
A,
C.
C have been paid, yes. They pay them by building.
By building, yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
How is Gunther Tooties coming along?
Gunther Tooties is moving along quickly, is my understanding.
Windows are in.
We haven't heard from them since we signed off on the building permit,
But the place looks reasonably reasonable.
so.
Okay. Anything else, Karen?
Nope, that's it. I mean, we could assign the reports for the town meeting.
Okay. We have 3.
You have 3.
We have Hammerock. We have the open space. And we have Greenbush zoning. So, who would like to do something?
In terms of what?
Who would like to stand
You
up?
have to get up and read, the planning board has to give a report to town meeting, and you voted on those reports last time, but they have to actually
I'll read one.
be
That's
read to the town meeting so that they know how the planning board voted.
I'll do the zoning one. And if you would do the open space one?
fine. Sure.
And who would like to do the Hammerock?
Can we do them both at the same time?
No,
No.
it's taken article by article
No.
in the town meeting.
All right, I'll do Hammerock. I don't mind. Okay. We still have 10 minutes.
And so I will post for 6:30 the night of town meeting, so that if anything comes up, you can meet beforehand.
Yes, and I think because they have taken the senior center article off, maybe we can get this done in one night, we hope.
I hope so, because we do need to
We have a
have,
meeting
right.
that week, right?
we do need to have a planning board meeting that week.
Yeah, we do. We've got so much going on. But we won't make it for 6:30, we'll make it for 7.
Good.
Should be
We
able to
wouldn't have
keep it
been
in.
here at 6:30.
Things are running about 3 o'clock in the morning now.
Yeah, so we're here.
Yeah, I've heard them, yep,
Yeah. No, I hear 'em.
I hear them too. Okay, anything else, Karen?
I think that's about it for the moment.
All right, well, we have, according to my watch, we have 6 minutes. Do we dare start this public hearing a few minutes early?
We do know that it has to be continued, because it's not that we can't get the material covered tonight. It's out of an abundance of caution, because there was a minor glitch in the abutter notification. So in order to satisfy, they resent out the abutter notification, and so it's an abundance of caution for everybody involved.
Okay. All right, well, then I will call this public meeting to order. Who is making the presentation?
Good evening. Is there a notice that needs to get read or get ready in?
But we do have a public hearing.
I do? Okay. I don't have it, but that's okay. In accordance with the Town of Situate Stormwater Regulations approved 42910, and with the Situate General Bylaws, Section 32050 Stormwater, the Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, March 28th, 2019, at 7:30 PM in the Selectmen's Hearing Room at Situate Town Hall. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by Andy DeGravilla. Thank you. Applicant for the stormwater permit for property located at 568 First Parish Road, as over 40,000 square feet of land is proposed for disturbance. The property is owned by Martha Nugent, trustee of the Nugent Management Trust, and is shown on the assessor's maps as parcel 31-1-39. Plans are available for review in the Planning Board Office, Town Hall, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend this public hearing.
Thank you. Again, for the record, my name's Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. With me is the applicant, Andrew DeGaravilla. This is a stormwater permit associated with the construction of a single-family home located at 568 First Parish Road, Lot 2. Lot 2 is a new 50-foot frontage lot that has received ZBA approval, which would be constructed behind the dwelling at 568 First Parish Road. The lot itself is a little over 80,000 square feet in size. It's located in the R1 zoning district. It's also located in the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. It is a completely wooded lot at this point in time. Referring you to the plan, the lot line is shown in black. First Parish Road is at the bottom of the page here. The proposal is to construct the new single-family home out back at this location. It would be serviced by a driveway from the house down to First Parish Road. Associated with the house would be water and utility service coming down to First Parish Road. The house is serviced by a private septic system. Application has been made to the Board of Health with passing perk tests for a 4-bedroom septic system in place. What's depicted in the darker green around the perimeter of the property is the no disturbance zone. Those would be staked off. That would be our limit of clearing or tree line. The areas in between that would obviously be developed with the house itself, the driveway, lawn areas, and we have a deck in the back and a potential pool location in the backyard as well. In total, the limit of disturbance, as shown on the plan, represents 51,173 square feet. All of the land on this property is designated as upland land area. There are no wetlands, there are no floodplain on this property. Topography at this site generally slopes in a direction from the top of the page toward the bottom of the page, coming off of this land, traversing down to First Parish Road. The goal with our stormwater system, per the stormwater bylaw, was to capture the increase in runoff associated with the project and infiltrate it in the ground so that the pre versus post rates and volumes of stormwater runoff are maintained. I can make the statement that they are maintained because we're proposing 3 primary stormwater systems. We have 2 series of dry wells associated with the roof. The gutter system for the entire roof would be picked up and infiltrated. We performed soils testing at those locations to determine the groundwater elevation as well as the elevation of the proposed leaching chambers, which is 3 feet above the groundwater per the overlay district. Secondarily, we've provided a cross pitch on the driveway, and we've provided a swale along the southern lot line, or limit of work, which traverses any water and conveys it to a grass depression. This would be a shallow grass depression. It's about a foot in depth at its deepest point. It retains water significantly and allows it to infiltrate into the ground. And thirdly, is another grass depression down closer to First Parish Road, which would pick up the lower portion of the driveway as you come up the site. Construction, mitigation. During the construction phase of this project, we proposed a silt fence erosion control barrier. I've highlighted that in pink. It traverses the down gradient lot line that would act as a sediment barrier for any sediment flowing down the hill would be maintained and captured with that siltation fence. We've proposed a stabilized construction entrance, a crushed stone entrance at the project entrance onto First Parish Road. And we've proposed as well a construction phase as well as a post-development phase operation and maintenance plan outlining the requirements for the homeowner to maintain the dry well system as well as the open air grass depressions. I did receive from your department a letter that was submitted by Abutters with concern about icing on First Parish Road. Again, the calculations that we have, if you look at the site right now, this site does all drain out to First Parish Road in its current condition. With our proposal, we are reducing the rates and volumes of runoff to First Parish Road. We do not eliminate them, but we do reduce them through, again, those 3 stormwater BMPs.
Thank you. Karen?
In addition, there was an additional comment today from the Director of DPW that he's concerned about he's reviewed the stormwater plans and has concerns that water will reach the roadway and wants that looked at.
All right. Comments from the board?
We do have our consulting engineer
Oh,
present
all right. Where's-
as well,
Okay.
if you want to say anything.
Well, you're hiding. Would you come forward, please?
Matt Lumsden, Comprehensive Environmental. We, I don't know if you've seen our peer review letter. They actually submitted follow-up letter and revised plans, and what Mr. Morse has outlined basically illustrates they performed some more test pits on some of the areas. We actually had to revise the bigger pond up top based on those results. And we've confirmed that he's addressed our concerns and the calculations in the plan address our comments.
So you're all set with what he's proposing to do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Is there going to be standing water in the meadow?
So that's a grass depression. It's going to be, maintained as lawn surface, essentially. Yeah, there would be standing water in it during a storm event, but it would infiltrate over time in the
24
area.
hours?
72 hours is the standard.
Bill, you all set?
All set.
Okay. Patty?
No.
Steve?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm just, pre-construction grade or water flow, as you said top to bottom. It looks kind of, it's left corner to top left to bottom right kind of thing.
Yeah. So
Is that what I'm seeing here on the contours?
Yeah, so the contours if you look at the sub-catchment plans that we had submitted, water essentially flows from this top area onto the Abutters at this lot line. That was one of our design points. And then we did a separate sub-catchment area pretty much just for the access handle, as the access handle drains not onto the abutting properties, but out directly to First Parish Road.
So is
Yeah.
that separately graded or isolated from the rest of the property?
It is. We had the access handle essentially isolated as one sub-catchment, which we analyzed pre versus post. And then we analyzed the remainder of the site as one sub-catchment, pre versus post, to the Abutters. And you are correct, the existing contours all drain in this general direction.
And who are the Abutters? Are there houses? Is it just
Yeah.
woods? What?
Primarily residential properties. Yep, single-family homes.
Okay, so they're taking that flow right now. What about at the top there?
Sure, so these are single-family residences along First Parish Road. This land all around the top, all along the left-hand side, and all along the right-hand side of the access handle, this is all remaining property of the Nugent family, which is the property owner. They subdivided out this lot and they're conveying.
Okay, and then The area, it looks like everything's designed to flow down to this, this depression, this grass depression you're talking about, right?
Correct.
And the 72 hours you're talking about, is that to drain the 100-year storm? Or what,
Correct.
it will, so there's capacity there for a 100-year storm?
There is. That depression is, I mean, it's relatively large for a single-family home project, but it's, you know, it's in excess of 150 feet in length. It probably is 40 feet in width at its widest point. So it's a large area.
And if it were to overflow, where would it go?
Sure. So we've specifically designed the overflow at this end of it, this corner, where it would overflow onto the driveway. And then down the driveway on the left-hand side is another swale, which would convey it down to a smaller grass depression along First Parish Road before it would physically hit First Parish Road itself.
But in the circumstance that it's overflowing, the other one's probably overflowing too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, during all
It'll all
storm
be
events,
going
there
to
would
the-
be water going down to First Parish Road, like there currently is.
Oh, is that right? So the little catch basin you have on the bottom left there,
This.
that's not capturing the water off the driveway?
I mean, it does capture water off the driveway,
Uh-huh.
but it only retains a certain volume. Anything beyond the 2-year storm event, you're going to have overflow on that, which would go out to First Parish Road. Right now, even during the 2-year storm event, there is overflow of this property to First Parish Road, so.
Right, so you didn't address that at all? You designed it so that the current flow is still going to be the current flow?
We actually have a reduction, so we've designed it so it's a reduction in flow out to First Parish Road.
How is it
But-
reducing?
Sure. So right now, there are no stormwater management systems at the site. Right now, the site drains in its entirety out to First Parish Road. By putting in the recharge system with the dry wells, by putting in this surface grass depression, we are retaining water onto the site.
Oh, I'm really just talking about your,
So this one here?
yeah, I mean, how did you decide that that was the right size for the remaining portion?
Yeah, so we performed a pre-development subcatchment analysis of this access handle area. Right now, this access handle, the lower portion of it is kind of some grassy area, there's kind of a field and brush. The back half of this area is treed, okay? And so we performed an analysis, we provided the calculation showing what the existing runoff off of that is. Then we added in our proposed layout. The proposed layout, obviously having an asphalt driveway, having some grass adjacent to the driveway, and then leaving the trees and the existing vegetation in the darker green areas I've highlighted. The difference in the runoff is how we determine the size that's needed here.
So it's basically for the driveway, the
Correct.
runoff from the driveway,
Correct.
and that runoff will that thing is sized to handle the 100 years, the runoff from the driveway for the 100-year?
So it's designed so that in the 100-year storm event, there's no more water leaving this site than leaves today.
Okay. Thank you.
Ben?
You noted that the existing site is all uplands, but could you describe to me a little bit what the existing conditions are in terms of what type of trees there, what type of forest or shrubland, or kind of what's going on?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a combination of trees out there. When I went out to do the test pits, you know, I didn't make a note of what species exactly. I know I saw a lot of pine in the area. I would imagine there's some maple and beech as well. I don't have a specific breakdown. The HydroCAD calculations don't have us make drainage calculations based on tree species, just cover, I guess.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is I just would like to hear a little bit of your rationale in terms of, I guess, BMP design and placement, and also in terms of kind of like the grading of the site in order to capture the runoff.
Sure. So when we look at a site like this, it's common practice to take your roof leaders and direct them into some sort of dry well system. Typically, we'd place that up closer to the house. Groundwater at this site is not very deep. Groundwater is relatively high, right around the 3-foot range, might be a little less in some areas. So where we did the perks for the septic system really drives the design of the whole site. The perks for the septic system, you establish the groundwater table, and then Title V requirements are that you put the septic system 4 feet above the groundwater table, and then the septic system is about 1 foot thick, and then there's a foot of cover on top of that, and that's really what establishes our finished grade where the septic system is. Off of that, we run back the grade to where the proposed house is. We want water to obviously drain away from the house, so that's what sets our top of foundation elevation. As you'll see, we're proposing fill around the house. The grade is coming up in that area. That's primarily, again, to accommodate the septic system. If this site was on sewer, for example, it would likely be less fill and less disturbance. But because of the septic system and the fill associated with it, the site becomes elevated. In looking at the elevations there, along the bottom lot line of it here, knowing that these are the residential properties that this site would be affecting based on the contours, we decided to place a swale. And so that swale runs essentially parallel with this pink line. Where that pink line is a stone wall, okay? So on the project side of the stone wall is a swale. Water flows downhill. This seemed like a good location that we could site an open air system. It provided a location where we could have an outfall of that open air system onto our own property, which would then drain down to First Parish Road. It's not like there's a spillway directly behind the abutting residences. So it provided that opportunity. That's how we came up with that placement.
Okay, and that, just to be clear, the swale is merely for conveyance, it's not for infiltration?
Correct.
Okay, I had a couple questions. You mentioned that the basins are going to be probably maintained as a mowed lawn area. On the specs in the plan, it says New England Erosion Control Restoration Mix. Could you just, I don't know what that seed mix is, could you just maybe describe what that is?
So what it is it's a little bit of a hardier mix that is water tolerant because it will have water over it for periods of time during a storm event. I don't have the mix specification here, but being where we're continued, I'll gladly provide that spec to you.
Okay. And then also in the spec of the grass depression, I'm just a little bit unsure of where the mulch comes in. It says 3 inches of mulch at the front depression. Being that it's a mowed lawn area, I'm kind of not sure where that goes.
Yeah, so the front one here is where the mulch system is. That's the this is the shallow grass depression detail for this here. The front depression, though, on the bottom of it, on the floor of it, isn't seeded. The bottom floor of this one here is just mulch.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and lastly, did any of the BMPs in regards to setback or depth of groundwater, did they trigger a mounding analysis at all?
No.
No, okay.
No.
While we're talking about it, could I ask one more question on this? Because I'm just trying to understand the geometry here. This looks like the overflow is at 113.8, and the bottom of the swale is 113.5. So is it really basically a 3.5 inch difference?
It is. It's a 113.5 on the bottom. 113.8 is the spillway there. I mean, that's why it's spread over such a large area. I mean, you get the volume, but again, this system here is such a large area for a single-family home. It's a relatively flat area, very shallow.
Yeah, it just seems like that's not a lot of margin for error there, just in terms of somebody even laying that out and getting all the grades right. It's 3.5 inches, right?
We'd have to provide an as-built plan, obviously, and I'm sure we'll be involved with construction stakeout.
Is there also specs, given that this board has run into issues before with like swales, which is kind of a loosely used term, is there a spec for how the swale, conveyance swale will be constructed? Just to confirm that the contractors are doing what the engineering team wants.
Sure. I didn't provide one on this plan. I could certainly provide a detail of that, though.
Might be.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea.
Are you all set then?
Yeah, I think so.
They'll be coming back, so
Yeah.
you can come up with other stuff if you need
No,
to.
I'm good.
Rebecca?
I'm all set.
I have one other question. The driveway, as it comes up in the narrow 50-foot section, that's in Zone 2. What precautions have you taken for Zone 2?
Sure. So the Zone 2 is a nitrogen-sensitive area. It's primarily regulated because of the proximity to a town well. There is a town well on Maple Street. With a Zone 2, what you're required to do is you're required to provide 1 inch of treatment with your water quality volumes associated with any BMPs that are in the Zone 2 area. Being in the Water Resource Protection District as well, we're required to go above the state standard. The state standard is a 2-foot separation to groundwater. Our town of Situate regulations are a 3-foot separation to groundwater. So we've designed the front depression to comply with the 3-foot requirement for the Zone 2.
Where's that demarcation? I'm looking for it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't see it on the
Water
drawing.
quality volume.
Maybe it's just hard to find.
It may not be on the plan, but I checked the GIS to be able to determine that.
Can we get it added to this plan?
Yes, they can add it to the plan.
I have a,
I have a question.
all right, Patty?
So, everybody here tonight is here. This part of First Parish Road floods and freezes all the time. It's a dangerous place to drive. So, Greg, can you tell us, it's probably not your responsibility, but the indication is there's no catch basins up there at all in First Parish, or nobody has done stormwater before, or do we have any idea why this floods so much?
I mean,
Don't
there's
put you on
a,
the spot, but
sure. I just got DPW's comments at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, thereabouts. Sean McCarthy, our town engineer, I got the impression didn't have a chance to review this in time. The comment was from Kevin Cafferty, though, the head of our DPW, and it was a generic comment.
Yeah.
Looking at this area of First Parish Road, you're right, there are no catch basins at this location. It's not surprising, given the fact that it's an old country street, but it does have a very large tributary area. I mean, there's acres and acres of land that's tributary to First Parish Road at this location. So, seeing DPW's comment come in, seeing the letter from the Abutters, I think there are certain solutions that could be proposed. Maybe there could be a crushed stone trench along the side of the road. Is it going to solve the problem? No, but it's probably going to help it. But it's an existing problem. And so I don't know if DPW has looked at doing any drainage in this location, but from what I understand, there currently is none.
no, there isn't, yeah.
So,
Before I open it up to the public, you had made mention that the small basin that's down at the bottom of the driveway, is it mulched around it or mulched in it, or how does that?
mulched in it.
Okay, and so if the water overflows and comes down, is that all that mulch going to end up on First Parish Road?
That's a valid concern. I can look into that. I don't have an answer at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend that you kind of look into a landscape plan if that's feasible for the infiltration of that, to stabilize that space.
I mean, I think mulch might not necessarily be the best thing to put there.
Yeah.
And you might even want to think about, as you were just saying, gravel, anything that would allow this to drain and not end up in the middle of First Parish Road. Okay? All right.
Well, when you're talking about
Yeah, no,
landscape plan,
yeah,
you're talking about
I think like
planting it,
a
right?
bioengineered system, so
Yeah.
using, like mulch would be okay, maybe a hardwood shredded mulch that doesn't float, but planting it with plants to help stabilize, and that which would also improve the water quality, given that that's in the water protection district.
All right. Bill?
Yeah, we're reducing the volume coming down. The question is, are we changing the velocity at all with that basin?
Yeah, so in our stormwater report, that is design point 2, subcatchment 2. We do change the velocity, we decrease the velocity at design point 2 for both the 2-year and the 100-year event. The 2-year event, we're discharging pre-development 1.66 CFS, we're dropping that to 1.65. The 10-year, we match exactly, and in the 100-year, existing is 7.80, and we're dropping to 7.68.
They're essentially the same numbers.
Essentially the same numbers. We're maintaining the existing at that location. The runoff to the Abutters on First Parish Road that we're against, again, is maintained or slightly reduced as well in the 2, the 10, and the 100.
Bill, you all set?
All set.
Okay. I'll open it to the public. Just please state your name and address. Yes.
Claudia Oliver, 71 Grove Street. Now, all your talk has been about First Parish Road, and I'm in a butter because I got a letter that says I am, so where am I on that map? Because I couldn't see, and I didn't hear you mention Grove Street.
Sure. So this subdivision it's a 2-acre lot that was done behind House 568, First Parish Road. I don't believe the assessor's maps have been updated since that has been divided, this lot. So we did have abutter notifications that extended out to Grove Street, which is well off the left-hand side of this plan. Ms. Oliver would be up gradient of this property and would not receive any stormwater flows. We also notified abutters, I believe, on Tanglewood, which again would be up gradient off the top of the page in excess of 200 feet from this site.
Well, I've lived at that address since 1977, so it's been a while. And in the past few years, I'm getting, especially the last year, a lot of water, and I think it's groundwater, coming into my driveway. I used to get water coming into the driveway from the woods in the back, and it was all on one side of the driveway, and it would just go right down to the street, and at the end of there is a storm drain. But now, there is a considerable more water that's coming, and it's coming from somewhere, and I really don't know where, but that's a concern of mine, and I don't care how far away it is, because when I attribute it to the first house that was built back there, things changed. And now if you're gonna put in a second house there, am I gonna float away?
We hope not.
Yes, well, me too.
Okay.
So I'm really concerned, especially after the water I've seen this year.
We've all seen a tremendous...
Well, I know we have, but
No.
I've seen a tremendous amount, now and then, but never where it is now. It was always on one side, and now it's like, where is it coming from? So I have to
Will
say.
any of this be, will any of the foundation structures or anything be in the groundwater?
No, how
It's gonna be above
we've
it?
cited it, we're bringing in fill around the foundation and keeping the foundation elevated.
So what's the distance from the foundation to groundwater?
The groundwater table. So our slab in the basement is at elevation 117.5. Elevation 116 is the groundwater at the test pit at the front corner in the recharge system.
So the bottom of the slab is essentially 1.5 feet above high groundwater?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Peter Sabian, 562 First Parish Road. So I'm one of the abutters that submitted the letter about the concern of icing along that section of First Parish. So I appreciated hearing the discussion here tonight about, some things that could be done with some sort of drainage along the roadway. I guess what I'm still wondering about is where it goes from here. So there's been discussion about it. How does something actually get done about that? Because it's a really dangerous situation around there. There's a lot of ice. It's a blind corner with the cars coming up First Parish from 3A. So, we're pulling out of our driveways on a blind corner, and you add ice into that equation. It's, this plan looks thorough. I have no way to know about how plans like this work. It looks like it, possibly could do the job. But obviously our concern is that, we have a problem already. So something, regardless of this plan, something kind of needs to be done about a dangerous situation along that stretch. So if something else, if this happened to contribute to it in any way further, then now we really have a problem.
I'd like to add to that too. I'm Greg Knopf. I'm at 556, so we share a driveway, common drive on the old house that was there originally. And I was there in 2012 when they tore open and put the common drive up to our lot. I can speak to what it's like seeing once that ground is opened, watching it go from just the dirt. They tore the stone wall open, they opened it up, and the dirt in the back lot, and they cleared the trees. It's a lot more water that I get into my house now, coming into my house. Groundwater's higher. We have an original well to the house that's there. So I'm pumping every storm. I got a pump that I plug in. I have a sump pump, but I have another one with an overflow chamber. So that's the first thing. I think this is well thought out. Obviously, I'm not an engineer. Right now, this is unproven. This is a thesis. This is what we think might happen. So I just want to caution when we're talking about the close numbers that we're talking about, the volume of water that comes chugging down our driveway, and we have rain gardens and we have the dry wells, they overflow. Your point about the mulch, all the mulch that was there is floated onto my lawn. And so we replace it, and that's what we do, and that's fine. It doesn't take much to fill those tanks up at all. And so that's just a little bit of historical from somebody who's kind of seen the same, just a little bit down the road, stuff opened up and it changes it permanently. The second thing is the ice that was building up this year, and I think Peter submitted an image along with the letter. It was this thick. My son gets on the school bus drives over that. We all know that people punch it when they come around that corner. 25 is not a speed limit there. It's 45, 50. And what I'm going to do is a separate meeting is we're going to start videotaping the folks that do it because it's dangerous. I swore somebody was going to hit the ice this year and wrap around that pole that's right there. Didn't happen, thank God. Something's going to need to be done. Regardless of, this might be the catalyst, and I'm not suggesting that my dialogue sway this one way or the other. What I'm suggesting is that something does need to happen with the drainage in that particular area because the road kind of goes like this a little bit. And so it might not be a problem with where they are because it does maybe go down a little bit, but right at the hump at, 562, something like that, it comes down. So that's...
If I could interject too, my name is John Holland. I live at 567, right across the street from 568 First Parish. So I can attest to what you're saying, totally agree. And again, Mr. Morris, it's not, has nothing to do with your plan, just want to voice my concerns there as well. When they put the new pavement in there, they didn't put a curb up on the edge of the pavement. So the water sits in 568 front property. It doesn't make it into the catch basin. Further, I don't know where those catch basins go. If they're just, a well, or if they actually make it to Grove Street and over to First Herring Brook. I don't know where those go. Maybe.
I think they're actually piped through the woods to the brook
in between Maple and Grove.
Okay.
There's a pipe.
Which is
comes up.
great.
Well, it is, unless you live in one of the houses down.
David, would you please identify yourself?
David Westman, 584 First Parish Road. I've lived here 64 years. I'm not an engineer. I can tell you the way it is. I grew up here, spent my whole life. They built a house on the other side of this one, same Nugent family. It's got a dirt driveway, so it's not even paved, so it's non-pervious. I've got video on my computer that'll show you it drains all the way down to almost Pheasant Hill Drive, all the time. Never did before. They put this house in, and now it's a constant drain. They put another house up on the other corner of Grove Street and First Parish, up behind the big white old house. As this woman was saying, that now flows out, all dirt driveways, no pavement or anything, so it's perfect. It should settle in. Does not. It flows out, now the corner of Grove Street and First Parish floods and it's not 100 years ago, 25 years ago,
Right.
any rain. There are culverts. There's one right in front of my house. When I was growing up, there used to be an open ditch. Well, they closed it in, so it's now piped and so forth. There's a culvert in front of my property, right on the corner of this property. There's one on the corner of right at the end of Nugent's driveway.
Right.
So there are culverts there, and like I said, it drains out to the poor people that live in the houses down across the street. That, the water table in this area is so high that the water comes out of the surface drains and floods across the street. Has done that at least the last 30 years, since they started building houses.
All right, this is something that we will have to take under advisement, discuss this with DPW, and I wonder, are those newer houses, did they fall under stormwater?
Well, I can tell you, on the newer house, the house they put on the other side of this Nugent property, they didn't bring in nearly the amount of fill they're talking about bringing in to raise this up. So it should be less runoff from that than what we're looking at here, and this is going to be dramatic. I think the question was more about, were these same rules and regulations applied to those
These other
houses?
Yes, they were, and as a
We
matter
were
of
asking the
fact,
town planner.
as a matter of fact, there's non-compliance at 566 First Parish Road. There's never been a certificate of completion issued for that one, and we sent a letter this winter. And we're still holding money from 556, 562, because a rain garden wasn't properly constructed.
So,
Yeah, I was at the meeting when the first house was put in and so forth, and there were all kinds of contingencies and special orders put on that property for drainage.
well, you know what? It's going to happen now, okay? We will make sure. We have to continue this meeting this evening. I have another public hearing at 8 o'clock. Karen, when is this being reposted?
We have it for the 11th, because we thought that they'd be able to get the information back to us by that time. If
Yes.
that's not the case, then, they need to let us know.
All right.
Could I ask before we do this?
Yes.
Okay, and this is really of the proponent here. First question is, and I'm assuming this is the case, and maybe you've already looked at it as well, that there's no more volume now going onto the road, with the new build than with what was there. Is it materially different between current conditions and new conditions, or is it essentially the same?
There's a slight reduction.
Slight meaning 5%,
There's,
something like that? Is there, or is it
yeah, I
20%?
have to do the math. It's probably not 20%.
Okay.
But what they're bound to is their post-development runoff volumes and rates can't exceed their pre-development.
Right, that's, I just wanted to understand the
Yeah.
baseline, that's all I need. My question is, to you, is whether you could look at that and potentially build this basin large enough to reduce it even more, make a contribution. I know it's not exactly what you have to do. I'm just wondering whether it's feasible to reduce a little bit more flow going onto the road from what you're doing. And at the end of the day, that's really the obligation here, is to look at trying to minimize, to ensure that there's no additional flow going off the property in any direction, either volume or velocity, right? So that would just be my request if we're going to continue this, is just to look to see how much we could reduce coming onto the road.
What are you suggesting, Steve? You put it up at the top or down at the bottom?
Well, I'm suggesting that is there a larger volume basin or something we can put in there that will just
More
manage it more?
More retention?
Yeah. But maybe that's the wrong question to ask. Again, I am an engineer, but not one of these. So maybe there are other solutions as well. I'm just thinking that while we're doing this, is there a way to, have an impact? It might not be a huge impact, but and maybe it's not a big impact to doing it on paper here as opposed to,
In reality.
construction, yeah.
And my other concern would be with this big, huge depression that you're putting in, that whomever purchases this house will have to maintain it. And sometimes some of these things are virtually unenforceable. I mean, I know of one swale that was turned into a garden. So, these are things that we have to think about.
Understood.
Yeah, we have to avoid that.
Really? Okay, so we do have to continue this for April 11th. At what time, Karen?
7. Patty's got a motion.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the stormwater permit at 568 First Parish Road, Lot 2, until April 11, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's Hearing Room at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, and to continue the time for action for filing with the town clerk until April 26, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Oh,
We signed.
So they just have to make it the same that it was before?
What's that?
They just have to make it the same as it was before?
No more volume and no higher velocity. That's what all this,
I don't know.
this
No, I know. It was
64-page thing is,
It's too
right?
bad that they don't have to just reduce it by a certain amount.
Well, that's what I was asking them to do, is if they could do something.
We could always change the bylaws.
But, right, that we'd have to change.
That's a different animal, right?
I know.
That's a different animal.
I think.
And, it's
That's
not
not
fair to
this
hold
year.
anybody to that stand. It's fair to ask if they will do it, right? But,
Especially in certain areas, like
Yeah.
in this area.
well, it seems to me, given what we heard, it might be worth us sort of sending a letter to DPW saying, we just had this hearing, we heard about this significant issue here, we think you ought to put this,
Sound like positive? Could
you ought to do something about it.
They could do something.
But I think that's a DPW issue as opposed to a planning
Got to
board issue.
brainstorm and fly, it's a bigger problem. It's magnified by the 3 houses they put in.
Where we needed to end up.
Well, it all sort of ends up, a lot of it ends up wherever the low points
wetlands
are, right?
somewhere, yeah.
In the wetlands, yeah.
But I think they can come
Which
back
is
up and change.
what the wetlands are, right?
They can change
No, but I
the
mean,
basin,
don't,
retention
can't
basin.
we flow it into our reservoir or something like that?
Well, the wetlands flow to the reservoir.
So they come, okay.
Yeah.
Or they're at least providing storage and
Okay,
filtration.
okay, all right, that's
Adds
right.
to the hydrologic cycle,
It's more if it drains and it goes straight to the river or something.
That's
We've
bad.
had it just
Yeah.
not,
Then
Well, if it's
you're-
not quality,
first race right on the street
quality,
there.
or if the flows
that
are
was
way
my
too
question.
strong.
You had certain short drains.
Flows out the side of the streams.
So, I mean, we were reducing it, but they were surging beforehand.
The other places haven't followed.
Yeah, well, I think that's a challenge. It'd be nice if they could maybe do a little something here, but at the end of the day, I don't think we can hold their feet to the fire for that.
As opposed to 7.70, same number.
Same number, yes. We want it increased by.
Well, I think the thing you said recently on these swales and stuff is, what is it gonna look like in 5 years or 10 years, right? Because it gets filled in
It's unenforceable.
3 or 4 inches, right? You won't see that.
But if it's stamped, they're not even gonna mow it.
What's that?
They said after a storm, if it's stamped, you got 3 inches of water sitting in it, they're not gonna mow it.
Right?
Well, that's why they should, do it. That's what I was getting at with the seed mix.
That's why they'll bring in loam and fill it in, and then,
And then it will
What they
overflow
should do,
everywhere.
they should
Yeah.
seed it and maintain it as a wet meadow. Only mow once a year.
like a bigger, smaller area
Decentralized.
with a deeper.
Yeah, yeah.
Karen, do I have,
Oh, public? No, I don't.
no, do we have a motion for
Public hearing?
the public hearing for, what are we doing here?
60 Country
60
Way.
Country Way? In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and with Situate zoning bylaw, Section 560, Village Business Overlay District, and 940 referrals, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, March 28, 2019, at 8 p.m. in the Selectmen's Hearing Room, Situate Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Situate. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by Charles R. Fagan for a mixed-use special permit in the Village Business Overlay District regarding the construction of 2,700 square feet warehouse and with associated parking, conversion of the existing north garage to office space, and raising the attached garage to the existing house, which will remain as a dwelling. The proposed parking will be connected to the parking to the north of the property, to the property to the north. The access drive and workshop will not be altered. The property is owned by Charles R. Fagan and shown on Assessors maps as Parcel 53-4-11. Plans are available for review in the Planning Board office, Town Hall, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend this public hearing. Who is doing the presentation?
Good evening. I'm going to be very brief, Madam Chairperson. My name is Frank Colpoys, for the record, and I represent the owner of the property, Charles R. Fagan, and it concerns the project at 60 Country Way. With me this evening is our professional, our engineers, Ed Cullen, and Josh Green is also here, along with Mr. Fagan, who's the owner of the property. I'm just going to basically turn it over to them. In the motion, we said exactly why we're here, for the mixed-use special permit in this Village Overlay District. And the narrative that you all have, and have probably read, goes into really the whole explanation of it. But I'm just going to turn it over briefly to Ed to kind of summarize the project. And then obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of questions and whatever, although I know Mr. Fagan has tried to do what he can ahead of time to speak to everybody, the planner and other people. So we're not coming in cold on this, obviously. So Ed, if you'd maybe perhaps just summarize it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Excuse me, if you would just formally identify yourself, sir.
Yes, my name is Ed Cullen. I'm with Merrill Engineers and Surveyors, and representing Charles Fagan for 60 Country Way.
Thank you.
As he said, you know, the property, as you can see, it's an existing site where they're putting the 2,700 square feet in the north there. It's a corner lot, but the majority of the lot, and this is important, that is remaining unchanged. If you look at both the house and the shop and all of this here, it's staying the same. We're just making modifications to this edge of the lot and combining it with an existing building that's already there. By doing this, what we hope to do is create the loop to facilitate access for emergency vehicles and other is parking as well. So we're trying to alleviate the parking, tries to provide more parking and provide better access for emergency vehicles by doing the loop. As I said here, the parking is all along here. We have handicap spaces and the dumpster. We hope to reuse the dumpster back here was created extra large so that we do not have to put another dumpster here. We can also put it over there. Again, in that way we're able to remain, to keep most of this intact and not disturb it. That's our intent. I mean, it's a large lot, and our coverage is about 42%, so 58% of the lot will remain open space. because we are in a water resource protection district, have to have the main cleared there. So we tried to keep as much of this natural as we could. But I want to be brief because I think most of you are familiar with the project, but please let us know with any questions.
All right, Karen.
Okay. We've reviewed the plan. We have Matt from CI here has reviewed the drainage, and I've looked at the rest of the zoning information. The fire department provided a comment today that they have really no comment on the property. This project will, right now, we are just permitting a mixed-use special permit for 60 Country Way. At some point, there will need to be a modification to the site plan administrative review for the brewery, because the circulation is designed so that it will improve the circulation at the microbrewery and have the circulation go one way and out through the property at 60 Country Way. And because more parking spaces are added to try to solve that problem, that will require site plan modification later on. But this project right now is just a mixed-use special permit. The mixed use occurs in the Gothic Revival existing single-family residence that will have an office put in the back. And the Gothic Revival residence is it's not on the National Register of Historic Places, but it certainly probably cannot be touched at all. It's rather unique in this area. They're going to have to give us a few more calculations with regards to the landscaping, the landscaping, the site recharge. They need to be letting us know that degradation of the water quality is not going to happen because it says in the Water Resource Protection District. I don't believe that the project will be able to meet the glazing requirement of 50% and 50% retail on the first floor, but I think that I think that Boyd could probably find some benefits in this project so that it could probably be, waived. The architecture is in keeping with the architecture of the neighborhood. The outbuilding, the new warehouse structure is designed to more resemble a stable, which many of the houses back then would have had. I'll let Matt say a few words about the drainage.
Sure. We reviewed your drainage calculations. We provided comments. They've actually provided us back answers to those and revised plans and calculations. I've only sent an email, I haven't had time to do a formal letter, but it appears they've addressed everything. They're proposing to infiltrate everything, which is good in the Water Resource Protection District. Concerns about test pits because they hadn't done perk tests on those test pits. However, they supplied data from the brewery property showing that the required exfiltration rates are above adequate. They shouldn't have an issue, which is, I'm familiar with other developments in the area, that's what I expected, but we asked them to provide perk information and they have it. We'd also made some comments within the spirit of the Water Resource Protection District, if there's anything they could do to provide more shade trees. I know the zoning bylaw kind of suggests more LID and impervious surfaces. It's a difficult site because it's presently developed, and the intent is to make some improvements to the neighborhood, and as Karen pointed out, the traffic flow. So it's kind of tough to do that, but that was our only suggestion, and they had agreed to provide some more larger shade trees. the intent of that would be to help keep the pavement cool. I know you're infiltrating, but, you know, the cooler you can get the water into the ground, the better.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to the board. Rebecca?
So you're just, then, another page, you're just proposing this one building and then something on the back of the house? I'm just a little confused when looking at this.
No, just that one building is 30 by 90.
Okay,
And this lot doesn't have anything to do with the brewery lot.
right.
It's a separate lot.
Right. And so there's nothing in the brewery that's part of this discussion right now.
No,
Correct.
Okay.
But there's inherent benefit to the brewery.
Correct.
down the road, yes.
In what way?
And once it's done, then the brewery gets the benefit of it, but the brewery is not part of the, what's being asked.
What benefit do
The
they get?
benefit would be, Steve, that they would come back, once this is squared away, Mr. Fagan would come back for a modification of his special permit for the brewery to enable the parking to loop behind the brewery into 60 Country Way and out onto Oak
So is that
Way.
part of this proposal?
No, it is not. It is
Well, then
something,
we can't assume it's going to happen, right?
I think that it will.
Unless it's conditioned.
It could be conditioned.
Right. It's not a benefit.
We have a problem.
I don't
That's
have
no
a problem
way.
at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't want to complicate it with this.
I know, but if we consider that a benefit, then we want to make sure we get the bargain of the benefit.
No, I have no problem. That's, sounds great to me.
I'm not saying we have, but
Rebecca?
You can go on to someone else right now.
Ben?
To be frank, I haven't had a ton of time to review this in detail because I kind of came in a little bit late this week, but I guess my personal opinion is I would strongly take the consulting engineer's advice under advisement in terms of trying to green up the space. One thing that's going on right now is obviously there's a flurry of applications to the planning board in the Greenbush area, and I don't know whether that's because of economic opportunity or because rezoning potentially might be coming, but either way, these projects really are going to dictate the look and feel of the area as it kind of develops and grows over time. So I think trying to capture the essence of and the purpose of some of the overlay districts and of the bylaws, and also, I mean, even in the proposed rezoning, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. I know that doesn't apply to this application, but I guess just trying to think about how, I guess a little bit about landscape architecture, landscape design, public realm benefits and improvements, and how potentially that could be integrated a little bit into this site if that's economically viable for the project. And then my only other question, obviously I need more time, I think, to look about it. And then my only other question is in regards to traffic. I understand there's a parking situation currently at the brewery, but I also know that that's not a great intersection either, and I just don't know if that's something that's been looked into in terms of the entrance, exit, and sight lines and traffic stuff. That's it.
Yeah, I think in the future, if parking is allowed by the board, we get up to 40 spots. We have, what do we have, 17 now. So it does benefit, and we turn it into one way, and there's talk that street's gonna be one way.
Okay.
Old Country Way, so it really helps the traffic down, because it is a problem right now. It's something I'd like to address, just being the owner of the property.
Right.
I give the brewery all kinds of credit, because they're doing a great job, and they have a great product, and it's worked out really well, and they're very successful, and I think this will help them in the future. And that's kind of what set me in this direction. And I just think it's a benefit to all the Greenbush. And I'm keeping the architecture, I'm really strong on that, because the architecture, it matches my house, it matches my barn, the garage, it's all shingled, no metal buildings, no metal roofs. And it separates that piece of property from the brewery and from the storage. It looks like a little farm, and I think that benefits it's a design aspect. Plus the parking and, you know.
Oh, yeah, I guess I should have spoke a little clearer. I meant landscape architecture. I have no concerns about the architecture of the
I feel I've
building.
done a pretty good job with the privets. I made it look like a real
Yeah,
residents
yeah.
rather than a commercial area, even though it is a commercial area.
Right.
And, I don't have a problem with putting a couple more trees up.
Okay.
They mentioned we should put them on the front of 60 Country Way, but there are 5 mature maple trees there now, and I think a linden, and I don't think there's room there, so we found other places on the property where we could put the extra shade trees.
Sure.
And I know for every 8 spots you need a tree. And, you know, there's nothing more than I want a nice looking project, and I think that's known.
Just back, you mentioned that potentially that, was it Old Country Way would become a one-way? I don't know, Bill might know more about this, but, so would potentially that would be a right turn only? Or in terms of coming out of that, I guess I'm just...
Yeah, you enter.
Right.
You're going south to north, and you can enter Country Way that way.
But upon exit, would you go, would it be, if you...
take a left and go back out to Country Way.
Okay.
I think that, you'd have to talk to the...
Traffic rules?
Traffic rules, and Taylor, who's the police, and he thought this was a good idea.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for him, but that's the feeling I got.
Sure.
I'm not sure the liaison from the planning board is in there, but he's...
Yeah, traffic rules and regulations is looking at making it one-way.
Yeah.
Right, and I think if you look at the flow, that one-way would enhance it and make it a lot safer than it is now.
Going, one-way going past the brewery,
Correct.
that direction?
Yes. And not coming out by Stockbridge and the bridge, which is, that triangle is
And that would
deadly.
potentially
Yeah, that's-
add probably 4 or 5 more parking spaces on the street.
Yeah.
That gives you enough room.
Mhm.
Because the town has since put curbing on the west side of the street, which was just kind of grass going in, and people are parking everywhere. Now they can't park on that side, and that was a great benefit, I thought. And it really defines Old Country Way, and what the town did with the mitigation money from the T is put the street lights in the sidewalk. And we replicated that when we did the brewery, and we're going to do the same if we go ahead with this.
Plus, there may be further traffic improvements further down the road from, at Old Country Way, coming up in the next year or so as part of another project.
We aren't making another curb cut. They've created a curb cut with the existing curb cut. So we're not really changing much at all. We're adding a building, and I think it'll just be an asset. So.
Okay, all right. Bill?
Yeah, I've got a question on the infiltration. How are you going to handle the infiltration?
We have underground storage chambers going almost more than the length of the building. We're infiltrating up to a 100-year storm. So
Okay.
even the 100-year storm will not overflow. It's not going out into the street. Everything's being contained there. We chose to do that, the underground infiltration, rather than any type of potential, because we wanted to keep this area natural. If we used some type of rain garden here, we would have had to disturb all this, and we would have lost our snow storage. So we chose to do underground infiltration right here. You won't even see it. There's a catch basin. You'll see the catch basin. But everything, we actually oversized it because we were in the water restriction district, and we gave more than 3 feet. The 3-foot minimum separation, we gave actually more than that. So we have more separation between the groundwater, and we oversized for the 100-year storm. So we contained the entire 100.
Okay, in terms of topography of the lot, it basically is pretty level now. It's going to stay that way?
Correct. There is a slight, right now it just slowly flows that way. Basically the same thing, except everything here will get infiltrated directly, whereas everything here will just continue to flow, just as it always has.
Okay.
But it's mostly grass and lawn.
And I guess you got the historical people to agree with the removal of the garage?
I got complete permission to do that. Everything's ready to go.
I think it's pretty well thought out. I think when originally put the brewery in there, that it would have been nice to have another piece of land, and this comes back up, it allows that to happen, I think. Not to be a benefit to be accredited until it happens, but no, I think it's a good project. In terms of the type of the building itself, I think the building itself fits right into the neighborhood, whether you're looking at the old schoolhouse or whether you're looking at the house or the barn. I think it integrates into it. I think if it was sitting more on the road itself, then you may want to think about changing the design, but I think the way it is now, I think what Karen mentioned, it's a stable.
Yeah,
that's how he
described it to me. I mean, it looks like a stable, which many houses would have had outbuildings when they were constructed around 1830.
I think it's good. That'll hold me for a while.
Yeah?
Well, this must be the only place in town that doesn't flood. It's going to look nice, and I'm going to say something that Bill talks a lot about, is to keep the integrity of the house, which we lost on the other side of Countryway.
Yep.
So it would be nice to make sure that we keep that architecture right where it is, really defines that whole, it really defines that whole section down there. It's so pretty down there. But this looks like a great idea. It will prove to be a benefit.
I agree. I think it's well thought out, well put together.
That's coming out.
Okay. Sorry. I will open this up to the public.
I've got a few more questions.
Oh, okay. Steve?
Can you talk to the use of this building? How is it going to be used?
It's climate controlled storage.
Of?
Depends on the tenant, I guess,
It
right?
depends on-
Yeah.
Documents?
I mean, is it commercial storage? Is it?
I have a storage facility out back, it's basically the same thing.
So, that's what I'm trying to get at, is what kind of things are going to be stored inside of it? Are there chemicals, are there
Oh, no.
oils, or
We don't
anything
have
like
out
that?
back. We have strict rules, and the board gave me, when I built that 13 years ago.
Yeah.
I have to abide by those rules. No outside storage of anything, inside storage, and we have big signs up, no oil, no flammables, no guns, no people. Nobody can live there. So it's just basically, one girl that we rent to has like 4 units of furniture. She stages houses for sale. It's a great business, and she didn't know it would take off, and she would love to have one of these units, and it would fit right in. I'm hoping maybe the brewery, if they need to store stuff, they could, probably rent one, would be in their benefit.
Okay.
Whoever comes along, but it's basically just for dry storage and things like that, so.
So we'd want to have similar sort of limitations then. And there's no real, is there much in the way of water or sewer use here then on that building?
Well,
If
the
it's
front
just
building,
storage?
The garage will have water and sewer. That's going to be an office. And that garage came from the house that I removed to put the brewery there. I saved that from the house and moved it over to that piece of property.
Oh, so the garage is staying? I thought you were
No,
saying it was
gotta
going.
listen. The garage is separate from the house.
Yeah.
All right, the garage on the house is being removed.
Yeah.
Garage on the house, okay. So this little garage in front of your building here is the office?
It's over
That's
here.
existing, yeah, that's going to be.
It's
an
under
office.
the
It's under this.
infiltrator
That's
in the
coming
picture,
off.
in the plan.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about this one here.
That stays.
But it stays and you're connecting it to water and sewer?
Yes.
It looks like the big building's getting connected to water and sewer as well.
Correct.
What kind of water and sewer activities will there be in there?
Well, if they put a bathroom in there or something like that,
Is that what you're planning to do?
I am.
In the storage building? No.
No?
No. Are you putting,
Well, I thought it'd be beneficial.
It's connected to water and sewer here.
yeah, well, why not?
They'd have a bathroom.
This is in the office of the
No.
garage. I think
Correct.
he's talking about.
No, it's
both
it's
buildings.
Both
to the other
buildings.
Both
building.
buildings.
Ah,
Correct.
Both
gotcha.
buildings.
And that's what they're showing here.
All right. Fine.
And I've been to the sewer department, the water department. and That's all set to go.
And what is the, so is there a parking plan here or something? I'm just trying to understand how you plan to use this space. Is it on a different sheet?
It's on one of the sheets. There's about 12 parking spaces on this new site per per se. And the parking requirement, they need, I believe, 5 for the warehouse. Then you have the front garage that's going to be converted to an office, and then you have the existing residential dwelling, and that will have 1 office in there as well. So there should be adequate parking on that site for that use, and ultimately shared parking with the brewery.
And if I could say, I think the parking for the house and the office in the house could be on the other side of the house where the driveway, I have a driveway going in there too. And I have 4 spaces there, so I think that would be beneficial to the house and the office. I don't think we'd have to utilize, I'd make it so the parking for the house and the office, it's 60 Country Way. We can use the driveway on the right-hand side of the house, the south side of the house.
So the 10 spaces would be basically for this 2,700 square foot building?
Correct.
Okay. Well, you can go. I might have some other questions. but-
All right, I'll open this up to the public. Anyone has any questions? Comments? Okay. All right, Karen?
Well, so it's going to need to be continued because obviously a few things need to be fixed on the drawings, and I do not have a draft decision for the board as well. I had asked the applicant earlier in the day if they thought they'd be able to get the revised changes done so that we could the meeting to the 11th, and they indicated they thought they could be able to get the changes done, and so we would propose to continue it to the 11th.
All right. And
Unless the applicants change their mind between now and when I've asked about, if they thought they could get the changes done.
All right.
And do we know exactly what the changes are? It's just as to the tree situation, is that correct?
And sketching out
I
the
sent a memo
Oh, okay.
late this afternoon.
Okay.
Sorry, we've been a little inundated.
Yeah, I know you have, no problem. Yeah.
So it's some minor stuff, and the board will need to decide about the glazing. The board will need to decide if it would grant a waiver for the front yard setback for the existing house, which it's setback of 16.8, where 15 feet in the Village Business Overlay District is required, but it's, I think it's a waiver to make because the house is going to be turned into mixed use, and it's already existing.
That's right.
So it would be a good thing to waive.
One other question for you. This is climate control. Where is the mechanical equipment?
There's split systems in there on the back side of the building. Each one has an individual system.
Back side, so on the north side, near the brewery?
In between the brewery and the new structure.
Okay,
And there's split systems. They go right on the back of the building.
okay.
They're probably a foot and a half off the ground.
Those will be all the condensers in there then?
Correct. It's heat and air conditioning.
Heat and air, so it's heat pump? They're heat pumps?
Well, it's electric heat
Yeah,
situation.
okay.
They're quiet, no noise. I use them quite often. It's similar to, I have climate control in the storage facility out there.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's probably a better place than most for it.
Yes, absolutely. All right, I think this is really what we are looking for in Greenbush District. The brewery certainly enhanced the neighborhood, and I think this will add to it as well. We look forward to you coming back on the 11th with a few changes that Aaron has given you, and I think that we hopefully will be all set, and at the same time, we can then look for, that will be part of the condition of coming back for adding to the site plan review modification for the brewery, so that we can get that squared away as well. All right? When would you, if,
I have a
yeah, all
motion
right,
here.
go ahead.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the mixed-use special permit in the Village Business Overlay District at 60 Country Way until April 11, 2019, at 7:45 PM, and the continued time for filing a decision with the town clerk until April 26, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Oh, when are you planning, once this goes through, to start?
As soon as possible. I'd like to, well, we've got summer coming, and I think it would just benefit everything.
If it's done before
Yeah.
the deluge?
You know, the traffic, just the flow of traffic, and if traffic rules get, they're, you know, removing.
Okay.
I just think it'll help the issue of congestion down there, and I think that's one of the big parts of this project.
Well, it looks good.
Start drinking beer.
Start drinking beer.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
I just signed. I just did it.
Is there anything else from the board? Karen, are we all set?
I think we're all set with
We
this.
just have to sign something?
Yeah, Shari.
She's got
Shari
that.
had them signed.
No, we have a Mylar we have to sign?
Oh, no, you have another thing.
Oh.
We have Curtis Estates.
Oh, Curtis Estates, where are they? We need them.
I believe they're out in the hallway.
Sorry, I was hoping we might get out of here. We're not. We have to deal with Curtis Estates. How exciting.
That legal ad back.
The legal ad
gentlemen.
is...
Thanks, Thank you. Good seeing you.
Here is the legal ad. Please, there's somewhere. I'll sign it for you and give it to you. It's here. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Here it is, Karen.
Thank you.
We'll have to go for beer, I've never been there. Did they skip?
Yep. Okay, we have Curtis Estates, 90 Ann Vinyl, and where are our players?
Too much fun out there.
With bucket and sponges draining the swamp.
What? What?
They're on squeegee in the squad.
It's about,
They need to.
Water.
They're gonna get rain.
Let's just get a house, get a bed.
who did?
We did planning board.
She's going out cold.
Yesterday.
No, that's fine.
Because of
I'm always cold.
negligence.
Drainage. Sit on
We're
my
not happy
feet.
with that.
You got nifty? Can you clean my car?
No, but I'll be happy to let you use the doll's head.
Look at this, this is.
Does it work?
It does.
I think I'd carry anything like this in my pocket and have some utilitarian value.
We were beginning to wonder, Bill.
Yes.
Get on it.
We're getting a little crazy here.
I just put mine.
Better off the chart there.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome. Who is going to be doing the present? We are here actually because we are not happy with water flowing off the property. And the neighbors are upset, everybody seems to be upset, and we need to figure out what we're going to do. Karen?
Well, yeah, you kind of said why we called them in tonight, because we had met informally in the office on March 6th, and we asked for some certain things to be done, and it took a long time to get those things, and some of those are SWIP inspections, and construction schedule, which we still, I mean, we got a schedule back in the beginning, but as to what was going to happen on a weekly basis now, and we haven't gotten any of those, and we've gotten numerous complaints over the past few weeks, past 2 or 3 months about stormwater. We asked, they sent us a letter, we replied back, and Mr. Marabito did respond back about the stormwater, and so a lot of the neighbors have responded back that they don't feel that the response was satisfactory. And so that's why we decided to ask the applicant to come in tonight.
Hi, Mike Hayes,
with Warrenberg, Delisi, and Harris. I'll start on, I understand the SWIP reports as of today, I believe, are up to date.
Right, I did get a SWIP report from late this afternoon. We've had 3 SWIP reports now in the past week. These are the first ones for the project. As you understand, the project has been undergoing construction for a while, but we are very happy to get these SWIP reports.
And right after
They'll
that...
continue to come.
Yes.
Right after that meeting that we had here that day, Paul and Don, the owners of the property, assigned the SWIP reports and the weekly construction updates to someone who couldn't do the job, frankly. Not out of any lack of experience, but just was not up to that challenge. They had since then retained Doug Sharon's son, who's an experienced construction man. He is on the day-to-day supervision of the project. He was the one who got the SWIP reports up to date. He is on the job every day, which is a big relief to me, and I think should be to everybody. So he will be the one who will be doing the weekly reports. He's going to produce one tomorrow for Karen. Right now, the only thing that's going to be on the construction schedule is SWIP-related matters. There's no other construction clearing or anything going on up there right now. There are 2 building permit applications in the building department, and until those are approved, there'll be really no activity there. But that will be a weekly report. What's been going, I think he's proposing to do them on Fridays to say what we did and then what we plan on doing next week. So I hope that this will be the last you hear of those issues. It's not the board's job, it's certainly not Karen's job to be trying to track those down. It's our job. We have dropped the ball on it, but we feel after one attempt that this second attempt, we have a responsible and qualified person who will be in day-to-day charge of making sure those issues are done.
And is the young Mr. Sharon agreeable to interface with the neighborhood in terms of their concerns with water?
Well, I think I'd like to have Paul talk first, and then I can address that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start by just giving a quick overview about the whole project, and I'm going to speak to the stormwater design of the system. When we started the project, we spent about 3 years from start to finish for the design and the approval. It's a well-known fact that the groundwaters are high in this whole part of the town. That was also documented on August 10th by 4 or 5 of the abutters on Townsend Road and Sedgwick Drive, and that's in the minutes of the meetings. It's also on the plans that are recorded in the registry deeds. At my first meeting with the planning board, we expressed the fact that with all the perk tests we did out there and the testing for the stormwater basins, we found that to be the case as well. The water tables are anywhere from 2 feet to 3 or 3.5 feet down from the surface of the ground. Groundwater is not the same as stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff comes across the surface of the land. When we did the subdivision, we followed all the rules and regulations of the town of Situate, and specifically the stormwater bylaw, which clearly presented us with the task of making sure that there's no increase in the amount of water leaving this site at any time. We designed our system. It was reviewed by your consultant. There were some edits and changes made, and after some revisions, the plan was finally approved because it met all your rules and regulations relative to the stormwater design. Unlike the subdivision that's abutting this project, which was done probably in the 60s or 70s, everything we did as far as stormwater, we're required to have the basins and to be at least 2 feet above the seasonal high groundwater. That was documented by us, and it was approved by your consulting engineer. Also, the basements of the homes are going to be above the groundwater as well. This is why they have to be elevated above the existing ground. So once all of the stormwater design was reviewed and approved, the project went forth and it was finally approved and the plans recorded. Unlike subdivisions I've been involved with in the last 45 years, we have never had to build the entire stormwater management system prior to the infrastructure of the roadway. That was done here, which was a good thing. Normally, you start your road and you do the basins later. Well, the opposite was done. We have done interim as-built that show the location, vertical and horizontal location of all the infrastructure, mainly the drainage and the basins. The basins, the basin on the Townsend Road end side, as well as the other basins, they were actually hydroseeded last fall, but because of the heavy rains we had from September till November, a lot of that seed didn't take, and they were completely unable to install the grass. The basin at the end of the project by Townsend Road, it does have some water in it. The contractor's been pumping it out. The problem with that is there's no grass there. If the grass was there, you wouldn't have the silt at the end, and the stone, which is underwater, may have to be replaced once we can see it. There's probably silt in there as well. But the basins are functioning the way they were designed to, and this was documented in January by your review engineer. After he looked at our as-built information we submitted, he went out and did some field inspections, and he had us do some minor tweaks to it, and we did that. But the bottom line was that he said the basins were holding the volume that they had to. I mean, the basins have never been full. In reality, they're way over-designed, which most basins are today because of the formulas that we have to use. And again, it's to hold the increase in volume, so you don't have any additional water leaving that site at any point. And the way this site is graded, most of the site flows to the left front corner over by Ann Vinyl Road, where there's 2 basins there, and those are functioning. As you know, we added an extra basin in Ann Vinyl Road is a backup or kind of a fail-safe in case those basins did surcharge. That wasn't part of the original design, but we came up with that solution. That was agreed to by the board and your consulting engineer. The elevations of the land show that in the back of it, there's a wetland to the east of the property, and most of the water is flowing in that direction. Basin 4 does have a level spreader, which is into the 50-foot buffer zone of the wetland. That was approved by Conservation Commission, and the direction of that is parallel with the rear line of the properties on Townsend Road. That was a feature that your consultant had us employ so the water would flow parallel with their property line as opposed to going directly at it. The problem in this part of the town is that the homes that were built prior to this subdivision going way back, it's a well-known fact, is that the groundwaters are very high. Groundwaters fluctuate. There's no way of knowing how high or how low they're going to be at any given time. It's based upon, your weather, the temperature. The rainfall may have an effect on it, but starting last September, we had the largest amount of rainfall for any given fall. Starting back at Thanksgiving, there's been frost in the ground up until about 3 weeks ago. The problem with the frost is that any rain you would get on the bare ground, it just run right up against the back of any existing homes. The ground doesn't freeze up against your foundation, so the water has a tendency to go down into the foundation. And where it is wintertime, and you don't have the warm weather to evaporate water, and the groundwater elevations have been very high this year. And we do know, based upon the testimony of the abutters in this area, that they've always had a groundwater problem in their basements. That's something that our client cannot control, and there's nothing he can do about it. The only thing we can do, and we have done, because it was a requirement of the project, is to make sure that we don't exacerbate the situation out there. And based upon the construction of that system and the way it's functioning today, and based upon our as-built and the review from your consultant, it's doing exactly what it should be doing. So other than that, I'll end with that and be happy to answer any questions you may have, but,
Well, I have a primary question. There's a problem, right? So can somebody articulate what the problem is? I hear all of this stuff you've gone through. I'm not asking you if you don't have the answer to that question. I'm asking who can tell us what problems they're seeing, because that's what I'd like to know is, you know, I'm not assuming that we have people abutting your property who are just telling tales out of school, so I'd like to understand that problem, because that's the problem we're here to address.
you know, when you ask the question, I think they need to be, specific as to why they're having the problem.
Let's hear that.
Sir.
Yes, hello, I'm John Sullivan from 64 Townsend Road, and I do understand that the water table levels have been pretty high in our neighborhood, but this is not a water table level issue, because in my particular circumstance, I've never had a serious water problem in my basement. So we've been there 27 years, and apart from some minor puddling on really, really heavy rains, we've never had water in our basement. We don't have a sump pump, and we've never needed one. But since construction began, we've been flooded to a level of several inches across our entire basement now, many, many times, and we've had to go out and buy a pump and a water sensor now just so that we can try to keep on top of it. So this is not a water table level issue, it's a stormwater runoff issue.
And the flooding you're talking about, does that happen every time there's a rain?
Right, every time it rains, and we're directly downhill from the Curtis property.
And is that any rainstorm, or is it sort of a really heavy rainstorm kind of thing?
It's on the heavier rainstorms, or in the last time it happened was after the last snow melt, when all the snow melted at once and then the water ran downhill.
You're 64 Townsend?
Yes.
Yes. All right, the gentleman, yes.
Yes, Steve Comfort, 70 Townsend Road. I live next door to John and Susie. And I've only been in the neighborhood for 3 years, but I can tell you that both the Sullivans and the Gates have lived there a lot longer than I have. A lot longer, like 4 or 5x times longer than me. And this is something that they have said has never been an issue. And what's changed in the past year, this has changed. And so it's not, again, like Steve said, it's not people making things up. It's clear before and after, and this is what's happening. And then the only other thing that I'd like to bring up is, I'm not sure how the basins are labeled. If Basin 4 is the one that's directly behind 70 Townsend, but to say that there's some water in there is a drastic understatement. I have a 6-year-old boy and a 5-year-old boy. And if either one of them went into that basin, they would be close to, if not above their head in water. So you're talking about 4+ feet of standing water that never leaves. And so that gets to a child safety issue, that gets to a pest control issue in the summertime, and that just gets to a general safety of the neighborhood. There's 15 to 20 children on the street that are below the age of 8. And, if I went back there one day to look at it, and I went in up to my waist. And so, should I have done that? Probably not. But is a 5-year-old boy playing with trucks or whatever going to do that? Yes, and he could be stuck there, he could drown, any number of things could happen. So that basin having a bit of water in it is untrue. There's a lot of water.
Could I just follow up, and these are two issues, right? The basin is one thing, which sounds like it's going to need to be repaired, but the water issue that you're talking about before and after, also related to rain as opposed to is it related to groundwater at all?
I mean, again.
I mean, just in your experience.
I'm probably not the best person to talk to about this, as everyone sitting around me has been in the neighborhood a lot longer than me, but we're talking about a situation where it used to be like a puddle here or a puddle there is now like a flowing torrent of water all the time. And I'm talking about a rainstorm that's maybe a quarter of an inch to a half an inch, where you have people who can't even get out of their driveway because it's completely flooded with water.
Karen?
Can you clarify if this is a flowing torrent of water on the surface of the land?
On the surface of the land, yes.
So that sounds rainstorm related.
Hi, I'm Mike Toomey, I'm at 84 Townsend Road. So I've been there for 4 years, and before that I was at 81 Townsend for 7 years, so I've been there for a while. So a couple of things. One thing I would say is that previous owners, we talked about previous owners as well who are willing to attest to this situation being something that wasn't there in the past. When you talk about torrent and being sort of ground level, so where I am and next to my neighbors, we have water that's running across the lawn, across the driveway for days after just a sort of a regular rainstorm. So it's not even just the heavy rains that we're experiencing it, but just sort of a normal.
I have to say, sir, I have seen that. I saw that this past Saturday. There was, before, and it was going underneath what was left of snow, a pile of snow, and it was pretty fast, going into the storm drain. Coming down, it looked like the side of the hill. And what I would like to ask your permission, Karen and Patty and I would like to come out around 6 o'clock Sunday afternoon and walk that area with your permission.
That would be great. We appreciate that.
Because we need...
Very rain Sunday.
Yes.
That's why we want to observe the water flowing on the
Right.
surface that they say is flowing on the surface.
We want to make sure that we are, put on the rain boots and what have you, to make sure that this is dealt with, that we can see first. I've seen it, and
You're welcome to do that. We appreciate it.
Okay. Michael, you wanted to say something?
I'm done.
Hi, so I'm Lisa, and husband Jack Gates. We're at 60 Townsend Road, right next to the Sullivans, and we've been there for 17 years. Not had a water problem in the basement, ever. So far, so good with the basement at this point. My issue is more with the yard, and I'd love you to take a walk through my yard, feel free. So in the last year, we lost beautiful, very healthy loose spruce, evergreen, probably 30 feet tall, just fell over. So if you walk up the side of our property, in between ours and the Sullivans, you'll see where the tree used to be, very healthy tree. And the ground is very moist there, crazy moist, more than it's ever been. And if you walk along the back wall, there's some rhododendrons there. They're saturated. One's coming up and out now. That was never the case before, and you can even see for about 4 or 5 feet in from the wall. That land there, the stretch along the wall, is sunken a little bit. It's receded. It's about 3 or 4 inches lower than the land after it. That was never the way. That's what's changed in the last year. And not for nothing, but we were able to grow grass, September, October, November. I don't know what kind of soil you're using around the basin.
No, we're not going to get into that, okay?
But I'm just saying, it's pretty damn moist, the yard. And I had someone walk through who's done work on our property for years. And the conversation did not, there was nothing to do with the work going on in the back. And he said, wow, it is really wet back here. Just a layperson's observation. And so that's, that's a big change in our property in the last year. And I don't think it's any coincidence with what's going on.
Is it mostly related to rainstorms, or is it all the time?
No, it's
just two quick points. One is the tree that you're talking about that came down is in that area that is saturated between our homes. That just has more water than there's ever been over there, and it is mostly during storms, during rainstorms. Second point is We have a sump pump, so the reason we don't have water in the basement is because we have a sump pump, but I will tell you, I hear that thing going off all the time during the rainstorm, where I very rarely heard it before. You know, it just didn't happen as frequently. It's happening all the time during the rainstorm, so it's constantly.
All right. We understand that there is an issue. We are going to go out and do some observing and march through your yards, as long as we have your permission.
Have our permission.
Okay, thank you. And we have your permission?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, basically, let's do a field trip, 3 of us, and we'll scope it out, and then we will get back to everyone.
Well, I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Yes.
Because in the process of coming forward with your schedules of work, I would like to see in these schedules of work when you're going to be reseeding these basins. Because, as you know, the grass, et cetera, takes up, that will absorb a lot of water, and as you indicated, the seed did not emerge last fall, so I would like that addressed as part of the SWIP issue. I would also like to know when the bottoms of the basins are going to be cleaned. As you have indicated, you know, fall came, the leaves fell, the leaves are, you know, probably holding down a lot of silt in these basins. I would like to know when the basins are going to be clean and when you're going to get some positive infiltration in these basins. I'd also like to know when the basins are going to drain within 72 hours. And when the basins are repaired, we don't want heavy equipment in the basins so that it gets compacted and could potentially cause further issues. But I think these issues need to be addressed on your end in the schedule so that we can also help try to figure out the root of the problem.
That certainly can be done. I think the question is to when will the basins be reseeded. Right now, Basin 4 is being pumped. The process is underway to investigate that. That work, we know, cannot be done with a machine. It will be done by men with shovels. So that process has begun. I'll have to leave it to Don and young Mr. Sharon to say when he thinks that process will continue in earnest, so that people are up there with shovels and looking at stone and looking for silt, and if things need to be replaced and repaired, they will be. So that process has begun.
Where is the water being dewatered to? I mean, you said you're going to be dewatering Basin 4. Where is the water going to be dewatered to?
Well, it's going, I assume it's going.
Right now, it's going to the
wetland.
The water's being dewatered to the other side of the berm.
Yes, into the woods.
Into the woods.
I would suggest you may want to not
part of it.
Not be dewatering in that manner. Maybe look at a different method of dewatering.
Like bring it to another basin forward somewhere, or?
We had a site walk with Greg Tanzi, the design engineer, and Greg had given us the location to dewater the basin. And as far as the construction on the basin goes, with the water in the basin and the material being soaked and wet, you can go in there and do it by hand, but, you know, based on the weather, on what you have for rain, if you walk in there and you sink down a foot, then it's counterproductive.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree.
In accordance with the weather and
Absolutely agreed. All I'm saying is I want to see it on the schedules projected, because these are some of the issues that are potentially causing you some issues as well, and so that's what we want to see on the schedules. Our
intention is to hydroseed the basin as soon as we possibly can and get grass growing in there. That's our intention. And we'll put it on the schedule, but, you know, we're hindered with, you know, the capability of doing it. because of weather, and we're dealing with soils. As far
Well,
as
you're
the
going to
pump
need to
goes-
deal with whether it's going to function as an infiltration basin first before you even hydroseed it, though. You got to deal with that first, right?
Right.
Doesn't make sense to hydroseed it if you haven't fixed the problem that's not allowing it to
Hold
do
the
its
water.
72-hour drain, right? So,
Obviously, we are committed to get this done, but we see no big reason to believe that when they are repaired, if necessary, and grass is grown, these will function as designed. So, and if they're not, then we're going to have to look at that.
well, the other thing, I mean, I heard a lot of this, we designed it, everybody reviewed it, said it's designed appropriately or designed according to Hoyle or whatever you want to call it, and that you're building things as you design them. The issue you may have here, well, we know there's an issue, so the issue you may have here is that whatever design you have isn't working, right? And that you may need, regardless of who signed off on what, you may need to go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to make it work. And, I just think we have a fair amount of evidence that's suggesting there's still a significant problem here that's created by the construction work that's going on. And I think Karen's right, we need to get to the root cause of that particular problem, and it may not have anything to do with, the theoretical design, it may have to do with the physical of whether it's working appropriately or not. So I think that's something I think is one of the things you're going to need to sort of evaluate, assuming that however long you've been pumping into the woods is not, making this problem so much worse, too.
Sir?
And that's a fair point, Stephen. Obviously, we're committed to making sure that drainage system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is, people design things all the time, and that's the advancement of engineering, is through failure of design and figuring out the next fix, right? So.
Sir?
Raymond Wasmer, 54 Townsend Road, live right next to Jack and Lisa, and just 2 houses down from John and Susie. We have not had a water problem, but we're above everyone else on that road. And just for data point purposes, all of the perk tests that were done on that property were done directly behind our house. And they've been going on for about 15 years or so. Maybe, it may be longer. So every summer, we would see a truck come in and they would drill a hole in what's now the conservation part of that to see if they could get this thing to perk. The water problem in the neighborhood, luckily we don't have that, has been, since we moved in 30 years ago. For everyone, but not at the levels that anyone is talking about now. So,
Right.
the perk tests were all done on the high part of the property, and we had that drought 2 or 3 years ago, so they've never been able to get that to perk in 25 years. And so, just recently, it worked, and then probably because the below-ground water table receded sufficiently for them to be able to do that. That's one issue. The other issue is the runoff, which exacerbates the underground water. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that it's a really stupid place to put a house. So, we did all by ours. But, the whole thing just doesn't make any sense at all. So unless there's some way to abate that issue for everyone, a canal, something, it's just not doable. Second point is, it's butt ugly. We have this little conservation land strip, which is a joke. On a map, it looked fantastic. I'm looking at a McMansion going up right out of my bedroom window after having seen, a nice forest for many years.
Well,
so those issues aside, right? I'm just adding the data point that All the perk tests were done when the water table was at its lowest, at the highest ground, which unfortunately impacts all the other people in the neighborhood. And it was done directly behind our house, which is the higher part of the street. And I think the whole thing is just completely ridiculous that anybody should be concerned that, you know, kids are gonna drown in their basement. I mean, come on.
Okay, that's, thank you. Thank you for your point. Sir? All right, okay. All right, we've heard, we know there's an issue. We are going to go forward and try and figure it out and do the very, very best that we all can do. So, we will be in touch with you as soon as we walk the property and find out during this rain that's coming in on Sunday what's going on, and I have your permission, and so we'll take it from there. Okay? Of course. Waiters, that's what we'll do. All right.
I would suggest, well, I assume you guys will be there as well, or somebody will be there, right?
We'll be there at 6.
But I would suggest you start thinking about, I don't think we're hearing something that says this has just been the normal course of events. It sounds like there's been a step change here. So something's going on, and I would just encourage you, in parallel to all of this, to start trying to figure out what it is that's going on and figure out a solution to it. Because it doesn't sound like it's going away. It sounds like it's a problem, and we're going to need a solution.
And we'll figure it out, one way or another. All right? Thank you so much for coming in this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, anything else?
I was by the site last Friday afternoon when it was raining, and I observed silty water going off-site. So you have been sent a violation of the stormwater permit. You'll be getting an email with certified mail, but that is a copy of what was sent. It's $100 fine.
All right, nothing else from anybody?
Karen, you mentioned in the last meeting.
I'll entertain
another
Bill's
check from
motion.
the review engineer.
Yeah, we did receive one,
Oh, you did?
but we have not cashed it.
Second. Oh, nobody made the motion? I'll make the motion.
Bill's motion.
Yeah, I'm seconding
I
Bill's
don't
motion.
make it, it's a standing motion.
Right, I second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
You think it's coincidence we're sending the 3 shortest members out to play in the mud?
We are petite, we are not short.
No, if they don't come back, we know we got a real problem. Then we'll send the tall guy.
That would be you. You know, in my neighborhood,
This is ridiculous.
Okay.